Welcome back to Basics, where we are going over basic yoga asana or yoga postures to kind of get a better understanding of how to enjoy these postures without getting hurt or without feeling pain. Today we'll be going over downward facing dog, an all-time favorite. So let's just meet on our mats. So, as I mentioned, we're going over downward facing dog today, a pose that you will often hear in classes is used as our kind of rest pose, or the pose that we kind of take a breather in between vinyasas and between sun salutations. At first, for me at least, it was really difficult to get used to downward facing dog. I think it takes an immense amount of both shoulder flexibility, shoulder strength, and just overall shoulder stability to be able to comfortably hold the asana or hold the pose. Now, even today, where I have that flexibility, I have that strength and stability, I find it difficult when I'm in a class that I'm cued to hold downward facing for 7 breaths. It all of a sudden becomes a little bit of a strain on the shoulders. So don't feel bad if it's a little difficult at first or if it feels a little bit tight, let's just say. We're gonna go over some of the basics. Now, in previous video, we went over chaturanga. And when going over chaturanga, I started mentioning the plank. Now, downward facing dog and chaturanga and a plank are all kind of incorporated in that we want a pretty even spacing between our hands and our feet. Now, a pretty good way of knowing that even spacing is coming into a comfortable plank and then sending the weight back, hiking the hips up, and really pushing the ground away from us. Some people find that it's a little too far from them, so they'll shorten their stance by taking a step or two forward, which is totally fine. That's absolutely okay. Just if you're one of those people that like to do that, I know I sometimes am one of those people, just remember to kind of take a step back when shifting forward into plank again, just so that you don't kind of put too much weight or put too much pressure into the shoulders and the wrists. So let's just get right into it. And I wanna once again revisit that hand placement thing. In the chaturanga video, I mentioned that I want you to make sure that you're pressing into all 4 base knuckles into your fingertips, really gripping into the ground here. So same goes for downward facing dog. We're really gripping into the mat here. We're really rooting down through the 4 base knuckles, especially the index finger knuckle. And we're first off sending the weight back, lifting the kneecaps off the ground, and then lifting the legs up. Now, something that a lot of people that are starting off with yoga notice is the fact that my legs are straight here, which is actually the thing that I'm least worried about. So if it were up to me, I don't mind if your heels are totally lifted off the ground and if your knees are bent completely. What worries me more is when I see people in this kind of pose, that they're like, yes, my heels got to the ground, yes, my legs are completely straight, but they're completely collapsing into their shoulders, they're completely collapsing into their wrists, and they're just creating a whole lot of tension where there doesn't need to be any tension. What I want you to constantly be thinking about is, notice when you're in plank, you have these kind of rolls here of the skin. We don't want that in downward facing dog. We want to create a very, very long arm, a very long spine. So I'm turning over to the camera for a moment just so that you can take a look at my shoulders. What I often see in downward facing is this or this. Both create a whole lot of tension, a whole lot of weight just being pounded into the shoulders, again, for no reason. what I want you to think of is rotating externally rotating through the shoulder. So if we're sitting, it's almost trying to turn the palms back. Now what this does is it creates a whole lot of space in the back of our neck and in that shoulder girdle, and it allows you to push the ground away from you from here. This muscle right here is called the serratus. And it's the muscle that really, really helps us with just pushing the ground away from us. It helps us kind of gain that extra strength, that extra kind of core stability to also help us prepare for inversions, like handstand, headstand, and even pincha or forearm stand. So as opposed to doing something along the lines of this and collapsing into your shoulders, or something along the lines of this, I want you to think of bringing the shoulder, the armpits to kind of gaze at each other. So we're really externally rotating through the shoulder, pushing the ground away from us. And now I just have all that space here in my neck to kind of make a no with my head and make a yes with my head and just push the ground away from me. Now we're coming back into this kind of side view of my legs. So as I mentioned before, I don't care if your heels are actually on the ground, and I don't care if your legs are actually long. We're pushing the ground away from us, really rooting down through the base knuckles and through the fingertips, gripping into the mat, pulling the rib cage in, really trying to get the armpits to gaze at each other. A lot of people like to look right between their feet. That's totally fine, just making sure that we're not gazing forward here. You can pull the chin into the chest and then keep pressing the ground away from you, and slowly we'll find that it'll be a little bit easier to lengthen our legs. If you at any point feel the need to take a little bit of a breather in downward facing dog, do that. Feel free to lower your knees. Take a child's pose. If you don't know what a child's pose is sitting like this. You can have your knees out wide. You can bring your knees together and then just kind of taking a rest here. Just allowing the body to find that slow, gradual progression, slowly allowing the shoulders to open up, slowly bringing that strength, allowing the body to remember those little tiny muscle movements so that we don't eventually feel pain. If you feel a strain in the shoulder, as long as it's not a pinch or something that feels like, that's painful, that doesn't feel good, it's probably the muscles in your shoulders working, which is great. We want them to be working. So if you have any other questions, feel free to comment down below. Feel free to even send me a message on Instagram. I'm right here for you. I'd be more than happy, more than glad to help you along this journey. And thank you so much for watching. We'll meet in the next video.